concerns or have questions. The other 39 have supported the president unequivocally. For more, I'm joined by David French, senior writer for National Review, and Christine Todd Whitman, former Republican governor of New Jersey. David, Lindsey Graham said he is collecting signatures. The Washington Post looks like there's, at least according to their survey, 39 Republican senators ready to echo some of those comments we were just hearing. Those comments, from the Jim Jordans of the world, how widespread do you think that sentiment is among members of Congress?
I think it's relatively widespread now, based on the state of play now. But there's a lot still to learn about this controversy. For example, why was the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine recalled precisely? Why did that happen? What was Rudy busy doing throughout in his freelance Ukraine diplomacy? There is much still to learn here, and Republican senators who would put their name on a piece of paper based on the state of play now, and we haven't even talked about what Trump might do between now and then. How might he defy lawful subpoenas from the House? How might he behave in a way that could add to articles of impeachment? I think it's extremely premature to judge anything as of the state of facts at this moment.
Governor, it's interesting. We show some of the Republicans who are coming out publicly rallying around the president. But I think on this one, more than some of the other controversies during his presidency, I think there's been more silence from Republicans, folks just not saying anything. Right. Who are you keeping an eye on right now who you think there is a chance, as more comes out on this potentially or as the situation develops, might go in a direction that we haven't seen so far?
Well, I think you have to look at those who are up for election. Those that are up for re-election are the ones who are going to be testing the pulse of their constituents and are going to be watching very closely to see what more comes out. And what he tweets, I mean, every day he tweets something else that flies in the face of our basic Constitution. And he doesn't seem to understand it. He hasn't gotten it. But so far, those people who are always going to be Trump supporters don't see that they're there yet. But I think there's a real possibility that they will. And this Ukrainian thing, to say that there's nothing sort of bad about it. I was in Ukraine for the elections, these last elections in June, on the parliamentary elections. And I'd been there in 2014 for another election observation mission. The difference in the attitude of the Ukrainians, the feeling of hope, the feeling of positiveness, of wanting to move closer to the West, and really believing that President Zelensky is going to move them that way and is going to battle the corruption. And he has already taken some major steps in that direction. But he's a neophyte. He's brand new to this. He needs our support. This is not the time to embroil him in domestic U.S. politics. And it's making his life very difficult. He's got Russia sitting in part of his country already in the Crimea, supplying arms to those dissidents that are fighting in two of his other provinces. I mean, this is the real world for him. And it's just been unfair. And Ukraine is an important buffer for us with Russia, as are the rest of the Baltic states. Our allies don't know that they can trust us at all anymore, and that's dangerous.
Well, last night, former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova, he's a Trump defender who was considered for the president's legal team back during the Mueller investigation. He compared the impeachment inquiry to the murder of a king.
What you're seeing is regicide. This is regicide by another name, fake impeachment. The Democrats in the House want to destroy the president. The Democrats, who used to just love process and procedure and the rule of law, they are literally subverting the rule of law in what really amounts to a seditious attack on the government. It really is sedition, what they're doing.
Sedition, by the way, defined under U.S. law as a conspiracy to overthrow or destroy by force the government of the United States. David French, here's the thing. I have noticed a few tentative comments from some Republicans. I'm thinking of Rob Portman here, for instance, who expressed his displeasure. He did not think the president should have made the phone call he did to the Ukrainian president, and then said, but not impeachable. Shouldn't have done it, but not impeachable. Trying to find that middle ground. And I suspect there's a lot of Republicans who would like to get there, but I wonder if the president is going to characterize his call as perfect and beyond reproach, and if his public and his defenders' public posture on this is, regicide, as you're hearing in that, how tough does that make it for the Portmans of the world to carve out that middle ground?
Yeah, what you're seeing there is really crazy talk when you're talking regicide or sedition. Impeachment is a constitutional process. It's a lawful process outlined in the United States Constitution. So this is not sedition, this is not regicide, but what that does is it stokes the base to a rage. And a lot of people see, for example, what President Trump did in this series of tweets trying to hammer Mitt Romney, who has been out in front saying what I have seen is unacceptable. And they look at that and they say, I don't want that to be me, especially when that kind of language has such a hold over the Trump base, which has disproportionate power in Republican primaries. I look at that kind of thing as a very short-sighted deterrence operation against Republican dissent. And the reason why it's short-sighted is because it doesn't play with anybody outside of Trump's base. That looks like crazy talk to everybody outside of Trump's base. And so in that way, you're engaging in a short-term strategy that I think is calculated to keep Republican senators or Republican congressmen in line. But as a long-term strategy, it just continues to alienate anyone who might be persuadable to Trump's side because the language is so unhinged.
All right, David French and Christine Todd Whitman, thank you both for joining us. And up next, President Trump is facing widespread criticism as Turkey begins its assault on America's Kurdish allies in Syria. What message?